But 155 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, the Negro is still not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 155 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity.
155 years later, the Negro is still languishing in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile of his own land.
So we have come here today to dramatize a shameful condition.
We refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation.
Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children.
It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. 2018 is not an end, but a beginning. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred.
We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. We have to realize that your freedom is inextricably bound to my freedom.
We cannot walk alone.
No, we are not satisfied. We will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Sit down together at the table of brotherhood.
With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood.
And when this happens, when we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Someday, oh, that's what the people say, that's what the people say, that's what the people say, we shall overcome, we shall overcome, someday, we shall overcome, we shall overcome, that's what the people say, that's what the people say, we shall overcome someday, I believe, someday,